Welcome to Brain Lady Speaks with Julie Anderson on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network. Julie Brain Lady Anderson is considered to be one of the nation's top experts on the brain-personality connection. She has been inspiring her audiences to fire up their brains and ignite positive changes in their relationships. And now she is here to bring that knowledge to you. The information she shares will help those who hear it to accelerate their success in life and business through the discovery of their natural gifts and maximizing their brain power. When you learn to tap into the potential of your natural gifts and the power of the brain-mind connection, there is no limit to what you can accomplish. Today and every Wednesday on Brain Lady Speaks, you'll explore the latest findings to see how they have practical application in your life. And now, get ready to join Julie Anderson on Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network. Take it away, Julie.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good morning. How is everyone this amazing Wednesday morning? Thank you very much for joining me here on the radio program. My name is Julie Brain Lady Anderson, and this is the Brain Lady Speaks radio show on the Lessons in Joyful Living Network. I am really happy that you're joining me today or you're listening to the download. Either way, I value your time, so I hope to bring you some really incredible information. We're going to build on last week a little bit. But we are up here in Northern California. I was just talking to the producer, and it is just pouring rain. And for us here, we are super, super happy because we've got snow hitting the mountains. It's about 5,000 foot level. It's snowing, and so we're packing up the snow, and that makes us happy. It makes us happy because I don't know how many people are familiar with the weather here in Northern California, quite different than Southern California. But Northern California, we don't get much rain like some states during the summer. You know, it kind of, it dries out around May and doesn't come back to wet weather until the end of September, beginning of October. So we really rely on this snowpack to feed us the summer water. And right now, at this point, we're kind of at the tail end, hopefully, of a 5-year drought, and we were really bad last year. And so far this year, it looks like we're at like 136% of snowpack on the mountains. So we're happy. We're happy. Up here, we just put on our galoshes and go out and sing in the rain. And that really is a great segue into what we're going to do on this show today, because it's all about positive emotions today. It's about being happy. It's about what that is going to do for your physical health. So if you listen to the first program, if you listened to last week's program, you heard that, you know, it was tons of information on that topic of psychoneuroimmunology, or how your thought process, so what you think in your mind, how that then turns around and affects your chemical reaction within your brain, and then how that in turn affects your immune system, and how it in many ways depletes the immune system. And I listed a lot of different studies. We spent pretty much the whole hour talking about that, and how all of these different, what chronic stress or negative thoughts, what it does to the brain, you know, everything from reducing white blood cell production to damaging the telomeres on the end of your cells. That's kind of how the last thing that I shared last week, but there's also, you know, lays you more open to chronic illnesses, even can increase the speed with which cancer takes over, accelerate tumor growth, reduce the size of the hippocampus. That was a big one. Remember that one? It was like 10 to 15%, depending on which study they've done, actually reduces the size of the hippocampus in your brain. And the hippocampus is crucial for memory. You know, and that's something that we all fear as we get older is loss of memory, losing those, you know, where do we put our keys? No, it goes a lot deeper than that, right? It goes into actually when that part of the brain gets damaged, it can actually reduce your long-term memory and converting short-term memories into long-term memories. So it's pretty important. They were even showing how different studies were showing how chronic stress, a lot of negativity, and a lot of problems in your life can predispose the brain to mental illness. I mean, the information was pretty heavy last week. And so this week we're gonna lift that up. We're gonna make it make it more positive. And we're going to talk about, okay, what is positive? That was all the negatives, and what did negative do to your health and your immune system. But this week we're going to focus on the positives and how crucial it is to have the positive emotions, some practical steps to take that we can actually begin to think more positively, because some people do have almost an innate cloud over their head, right? They kind of wander around with a much more negative view of life. And that's, scientists are still wondering the exact root to why some people are more inherently positive and some are more inherently negative. But wherever you're at on the spectrum, naturally, there are day-to-day activities, day-to-day steps that you can take that can flip this and can actually rewire your brain. And I'm going to share some of those scientific findings today, because remember, we're all about the science behind psychology. I also want to encourage you to start out every day in a very practical or in a very happy way. And if you connect with me on Facebook, I have Facebook, so www.facebook.com/Purple Brain Lady. So it's Julie Anderson, Purple Brain Lady, is my main page that I post on. And I'm constantly posting positive quotes or positive thinking on there. I try on Mondays to do just a real quick positive thought Monday video to kind of get your brain in the right mindset for the week. And I have a lot of informative articles that I write on there, blogs that are all this science behind the psychology. And a lot of that is it's all just to be, not just be informative, but to really lift our way of looking at life and thinking, and how we can utilize this information to be more positive, to be more happy, and then, of course, to be healthy and enrich all of our life and our relationships. I also have some great stuff on my website, yourbestmindonline.com. And you can go on there under products, and there's some great CDs and whatnot. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to be gifting my listeners a complimentary gift every month. And so since this month is all the mindset, January's theme is mindset. February's theme is going to be relationships. We're going to talk about the brain personality connection and relationships next month. But this month is all that mindset and having a very positive mindset. So we will be putting up, within the next few days, we'll be putting up a link on the Brain Lady Speaks Radio Show.com page on the Living Lessons in Joyful Living Network, that you'll be able to click and get that free download. And we'll also have it on my website, yourbestmindonline.com, and my website, brainladyspeaker.com. So be sure to tap into that. So back to the topic. Kind of got off sidetracked there, but I want you to be able to have all of these resources, especially the ones that I'll be posting every month, that you can utilize in your life for some great positive forward momentum. So again, last week we were talking about all of those things, the negative things that happen to your body when we're experiencing a lot of negative thought and a lot of stress. And one of the things that we talked about was that study that was being done in the Bay Area of California by Dr. Elizabeth Blackburn and her colleague, Dr. Alyssa Appel, and how they were studying the group of women who were raising severely developmentally disabled children, and how that's where the study on the telomeres came out. How it was powerful that this high stress that they were living under and the negativity that brought about, how that was reducing or aging the telomeres much faster. And they were finding, Dr. Robert Sapolsky, he said that for every year you're under a chronic heavy stress, it equates to 6 years of aging on your telomeres. So remember I said how powerful that is, 1 to 6, that's pretty powerful. So 10 years of being in this high stress, negative emotion producing atmosphere all the time. 10 years of that could equate to 60 years of aging on your cells. But there was a light at the end of the tunnel, because the Alyssa Appel, this doctor, the psychologist who was working with this group, found that these individuals, these moms, when they started meeting in a support group, things dramatically changed. because being in this support group, being in a positive atmosphere where everyone could share their experiences and support each other and share the like experience. Like if you don't have a severely developmentally disabled child, right, you can't relate to what the day-to-day routine is of going through that. So being in that like support system, what they found is this telomerase, which is the enzyme that increases or actually has the ability to improve the edge of the telomeres, that this was, for the production of this telomerase increased when these women went into this support system, because that support system then helped them to deal with the stress, and it helped them to just be happier, feel more supported, and then could stay off or slow this rapid deterioration on the edge of their telomeres. And this was really fascinating, really fascinating. So the message that this begins to send then, and we've kind of known this, but the message that this confirms is that when there is something we can do about it, you don't have to perpetually walk around life with a big rain cloud over your head, unless you're in Northern California and you want the rain. No, I'm just teasing. The point is that, you don't have to remain in this negative thought process or in a high stress process. We can just simply taking different steps, even in our thinking and joining support groups and whatnot, can change that. So when we come back to break, we're getting ready to go to break. When we come back from break, we're going to talk about specifically some of the scientific research on what positive thoughts can do for your brain and your body. And then we'll wrap up the show today with some very practical day-to-day activities that you can do that can flip that from this primarily negative way of thinking into a positive way of thinking. So that's going to be what we're going to come back and discuss after break. So until then, warm up your coffee, heat up your tea. I'm drinking some tea this morning, and join me back in just a couple of minutes on the Brain Lady Speaks radio show.
With her thorough understanding of brain chemistry, Julie Anderson provides you with tools and processes that will change your life in a positive way. Julie uniquely blends science and psychology when she shares her knowledge and information with businesses, entrepreneurs, women's groups, and families to improve workplace morale and productivity, parents creating dynamic relationships with their children, and women achieving more in life and business. Julie Anderson will be right back with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
Congratulations on being the proud owner of an adorable, soft, cuddly, sweet-smelling, smiling, cooing, hungry, tired, gassy, screaming little bundle of joy. So now what? Where's the owner's manual for this thing? Where are my instructions? Right here. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com. Infant care specialist Blythe Lipman has worked with babies for over 20 years and works extensively with new parents, providing workshops, in-home visits, tips, and daily phone calls to ease those frazzled nerves. With Baby and Toddler Instructions, you can get the advice you need on how to survive and enjoy your baby's first year. For more information on Blythe and how she can help you, go to babyinstructions.com. From 32 ways to stop a baby from crying to 14 ways to get a baby to eat and so much more. It's Baby and Toddler Instructions with Blythe Lipman on TogiNet.com.
It's the Fitness Minute with fitness expert Annette Hammond.
Let's face it, most of us want to exercise, but motivation can be lacking and cause you not to work out. Men's Health magazine puts it this way: you have the right to remain fat or skinny or weak, but you should know that every workout you miss can and will be used against you to make your belly bigger, your muscles smaller and weaker, and your life shorter. Unfortunately, most Americans are exercising their right not to exercise. Men's Health states that a recent study by the National Center for Health Statistics found that 63% of the population, about the same percentage of Americans who are overweight, believe that exercising can make them healthier, leaner, and less stressed, and still they don't do it. Don't fall into that statistic. Exercise your right to stay healthy and fit. For the Fitness Minute, I'm Annette Hammond.
Welcome back to Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network. By including the latest scientific research on the brain-personality connection, Julie Brain Lady Anderson provides her clients with the all-important why behind what people do and how they think. The information she shares will help those who hear to accelerate their success in life and business through the discovery of their natural gifts and maximizing their brain power. Here again is your host, Julie Anderson, with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you heated up your tea or coffee and you're ready to go for some great information. Let's start with something that I mentioned last week because I think it was pretty powerful studies that I thoroughly always love. And I bring it out when I speak often. I will bring this information out almost all the time because it's such a simple I don't want to say simple. It's not a complex study that was done. It's just laughter. It's just humor and feeling good, just having those positive emotions. And I mentioned Dr. Dillon and Dr. McClellan and how they had done studies with student volunteers. A lot of times, like I said, it's student volunteers to do this because they're the ones that need the money, right? Who they had, in both cases, they had them watch either humorous tapes, videos that would invoke laughter, or in Dr. McClellan's tape or situation, it was a video. It was a commentary on Mother Teresa, and it was designed to invoke very positive emotions. And across the board in both of these cases, all of their volunteers, all of the people in the study showed a significant, again, this is their wording, not mine. I did not use this word. This is their word direct from their reports. Significant increase in the salivary immunoglobulin A, which is this immunoglobulin that is produced in the saliva. And not only was there a significant increase above the original baseline, there was significant right after they viewed these things, but several hours later, there was still raised, above the baseline. And that's pretty powerful to think that it can really be that simple. It doesn't have to be as complicated as, huge processes and thought processes. And it can be just starting out your day positive. We did the exercise last week about the lemon. And talking about how I described a lemon and lemon water on a hot summer day and all of that, and how that will, induce within your mouth, the desire to salivate. And even though there's no lemon present, it's just that thought that does it. And that's the key to psychoneuroimmunology. It's just the thought. There's so much power in the way we think. So some of the research here, I mentioned a little bit earlier, a few of the things, but Mayo Clinic did a report and they brought out that there were the health benefits of positive thinking. And they listed things such as increased lifespan, lower rates of depression, lower levels of distress, greater resistance to the common cold. Well, that makes sense. We talked about how it rises the immune system, produces more more white blood cells. So if that's happening, then obviously it's going to lower or give you a greater resistance to illness, right? Better psychological and physical well-being, reduced risk of death from cardiovascular disease. This is a big one, and better coping with skills during hardships. The cardiovascular disease I found pretty fascinating. Let me see here if I can locate. There are so many studies that I have here on my desk. It's pretty funny. You'd laugh if you saw my my desk and my computer top. I think I need a third screen. At any rate, the evidence is coming forth that things like cardiovascular disease and even cancers are reduced when you're a more positive thinking person. Now, there's different lines of thought along this. There are some people feel that it's not necessarily the increase in the white blood cell counts or what happens on a physiological level in your body. The reduced risk to heart disease, cardiovascular disease, they were showing how in a lot of cases, these individuals who are more positive, they're more apt to deal in a positive way with illnesses. So on a psychological basis, what they're doing is they're getting up and they're being more active and they're paying more attention to their diet and they're doing things that improves the overall physical health. So it's you're getting a positive on both ends. It's not just increasing the activity by science proving that it increases the activity in your immune system, but it's also changing the whole way that you address diseases and disorders and illnesses. So there was a study that was done by Barbara Fredrickson. She's actually done a lot of research, and I'll refer to her a couple of times here in this as we do this show today. She is at the Department of Psychology and University of Michigan, and she did a really long study and talked about that had to do with positive emotions and studied a lot of different people and how it affects them and their brain. And when you understand the makeup of the brain, so you have this amazing prefrontal cortex that is very unique to human beings. And the prefrontal cortex is the area of our brains that gives us the ability to think straight, to reason, to problem solve. This is huge, to problem solve. When we are in situations of chronic stress, research has shown that this area of the brain is the first one to start to shut down. We don't know why. This is the part we need the most when we're stressed out. And yet this is the part that tends to shut down. And what becomes really super active is the amygdala. And the amygdala is that fight, flight, the fear, and, kicks off that whole, we discussed this last week, that whole response in the body. The overrun of adrenaline and cortisol and all these different things in the body. But what happens is positive thinkers, this Dr. Fredrickson found, she said, distinct types of positive emotion serve to broaden people's momentary thought action repertoires, which basically means engaging that prefrontal cortex. So what I do, what I'm thinking about doing, and what is going on in my brain, what the action or what's going to happen when I do this thing. So it's consequences for our actions take place, understanding that in the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And when you are experiencing different types of positive emotions, she found that the individuals in her study were better able to engage this PFC, or the prefrontal cortex. So they were better able to reason their way through a situation for a positive outcome, as opposed to just acting on emotion or letting that amygdala take over and move forward in a knee-jerk type of reaction, which negative emotions in her study is basically narrowed their problem-solving ability. So by engaging the positive emotions, you were actually able to think your way through situations much better. Positive emotions, she found, also might correct or undo, she said, the effects of negative emotions. She called this undue hypothesis. The evidence that she found suggests that people might improve their psychological well-being and perhaps their physical health, that the positive effect on chronic stress, or the positive emotions, if you are undergoing chronic stress and you start to develop positive emotions, it can, of course, help you to cope with that, according to her study and studies that were done by Dr. Folkman and Dr. Moskowitz back in the year 2000. So really, this positive emotion, just simply in her findings, showed that it broadened the scope of your attention and cognition, she said, enabling flexible and creative thinking. So problem solving, right? So just thinking positive during times of high stress, it's going to help you think straight. Positive thinking is going to help you think straight. And by thinking straight, then you're going to work your way out of this negative emotion and just continue to build the positive emotions. So lots there on positive emotions. They have, another study that was done at the University of Minnesota. It was showing how, they actually worked with Dr. Fredrickson, and they were showing things that it included faster recovery from cardiovascular stress, better sleep, fewer colds, and of course, overall happiness, which positive emotions are going to do that. These positive attitudes, such as playfulness, gratitude, awe, love, interest, serenity, and feeling, they have this effect on the brain that actually changes your immune system into a positive. It kicks it into a positive gear, if you will. Makes you work more positively. It also has a huge effect on digestion. Now, understand that there's over 1 million neurons in your gut. So there's tons of neurons in your digestive system, in your gut, and they communicate. We'll do a whole show on this, gut health and the brain and brain health in the future, because it's very fascinating as well. But these neurons in your gut, they communicate directly to the brain through the neural pathways up through the vagus nerve. And this is something that when you're experiencing, that's why when you're afraid, you get butterflies in your stomach. It's because your neurons are literally reacting to the message that the brain is sending. I'm scared, I'm frightened, I'm nervous. And it creates this neurological, this neuron response within the gut. And it can mess up the gut, obviously. So when you are experiencing negative emotions, you tend to have more gut problems. But when you go through this process of developing positive emotions in your life, then taking these positive steps, now you're calming those neurons in the gut. So that message that's going down to the gut from the brain is quite different than the previous message of, being upset and nervous. It's sending a calming message down to the gastrointestinal system. So very positive things that you can do. And this is all in the thinking process. I'm not saying don't take supplements, but this isn't based on supplements. This isn't based on you're eating good, although eating good is crucial to mental health as well. But which will be another show in the future. But it is simply through your thought process, calming those heavy thought processes. Okay, we're going to be back in just a minute. Join me.
With her thorough understanding of brain chemistry, Julie Anderson provides you with tools and processes that will change your life in a positive way. Julie uniquely blends science and psychology when she shares her knowledge and information with businesses, entrepreneurs, women's groups, and families to improve workplace morale and productivity, parents creating dynamic relationships with their children, and women achieving more in life and business. Julie Anderson will be right back with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Be here for Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer, Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com. Tricia will dig deep into topics that matter most to women, inspiring women to make a change in their own lives and to make a difference in the world, and maybe even deep within their own hearts. Tricia is a wife, mom, speaker, family expert, and author of 24 books. For more information on Tricia and Living Inspired, go to her website, TriciaGoyer.com. That's TriciaGoyer.com. Tricia's vision is to be the voice of hope and possibility for women of all ages. Her intention is to serve ordinary women by encouraging extraordinary things with God's help. Tricia expresses real life, real hope for real women. Is there more living for you to do? Yes. Start living inspired. Living Inspired with Tricia Goyer. Thursday afternoons at 4, 3 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Believe it or not, there are times when even I can't think of the right word. The inability to think of a word is called lethologica. Texas Monthly Magazine recently came out with some colorful homespun sayings. Old as dirt and common as cornbread in the Lone Star State. Did you hear about the Texan that could strut sitting down? But he was all hat and no cattle, which means very boastful, but with nothing about which to boast. On top of that, he don't know a widget from a wangdoodle or a diddly squat. His wife was a mighty strong woman. She'd charge hell with a bucket of ice water. She was always telling folks that he was so tight, he could squeeze a nickel till the buffalo screamed. She also said he was famous for calling the hogs all night. Or snoring. I'm Carolyn Davidson, and you can have fun challenging your words you never heard vocabulary with my new app, Too Funny for Words.
Welcome back to Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network. By including the latest scientific research on the brain-personality connection, Julie Brain Lady Anderson provides her clients with the all-important why behind what people do and how they think. The information she shares will help those who hear to accelerate their success in life and business through the discovery of their natural gifts and maximizing their brain power. Here again is your host, Julie Anderson, with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
All right, welcome back. Welcome back. We are back to talk more about the positive thoughts, positive emotions. Remember I said the brain listens to what your mind is saying. So you got to be real careful what you're telling it, right? Okay, so we're going to get back to some of these, some of the research that has come out of the field of psychology and neuropsychology, and how we have this ability within how the thought process and making a positive thought process will have a positive effect on your brain, and then, of course, down into your physical health. So another study that's very interesting, and this was done as well by Dr. Fredrickson, or research, yes, I believe this was Dr. Fredrickson, yes. In this particular one, she found that when you're experiencing positive emotions such as joy, contentment, and love, you tend to see more possibilities in your life. Again, opening up the problem-solving ability within the brain. And these findings were among those that suggested that positive emotions broaden your sense of possibility and open your mind to more options. So when you are negative, you're closing that down. You're not allowing your prefrontal cortex to engage the way it needs to engage to fix problems or to figure out other solutions or, possibilities or work your way around issues. And therefore, you can't work your way out of these situations. Now, an interesting side point on this, I'm going to go off kind of into teen brains. The prefrontal cortex is the last portion of the brain that develops. So a lot of your teenagers, it's just, when you make the statement, the elevator is not reaching the top floor, in terms of teens, the elevator does not reach the top part of the brain. It does not make it there because the wiring is not completely there. And that crucial wiring and development of that prefrontal cortex is so important for problem solving. So, and understanding those consequences of your actions. And teenagers don't have this yet. They just don't have this yet. So when you ask them why they did something that appears to be relatively stupid and they're like, I don't know, they honestly don't know. They can't, because they don't have that logical thinking ability that takes place in that prefrontal cortex. So I tell my parents, when I work and coach with parents, I tell them, you have got to make sure that you be the prefrontal cortex for your kids. Try to understand that. There's a lot of interesting information on teens. And again, I believe the family is the May. Parenting is our May topic month. So like I said earlier, we're doing each month in topics, and this one is mindset. So we will get to that as this show progresses. So stick with me. And we'll bring out lots of more interesting information on understanding your kids, as well as some upcoming books that'll be coming out that'll help with that. So back to positivity in your life. So it helps. Positive thinking then, of course, helps you to engage this front part of the brain and allows you to be able to think more and reason more. Another study that is really, really interesting that was done was showing that it actually could stimulate the growth of new neural connections. And part of this goes back to being able to include that or engage that prefrontal cortex the best or more, because every time you problem solve, and this is where those problem solving games come in, those quote unquote brain games, I believe in them 100%. There's some controversy recently surrounding one of the major online brain gaming programs and what their claims were, but I have to tell you that based on the research that I have sitting on my desk and in my file cabinets and on my bookshelves, there's definitely evidence out there to show that brain games, increase your brain health and your cognition. And it's because doing these different games actually stimulate the nerve cell connections. They actually create new neural pathways. And that gives you that ability it improves your cognition and your mental productivity and that ability to analyze and figure your way out of a situation. Because sometimes when you get stuck in a situation, it's that frustration, that negative emotion of frustration that you just kind of ruminate in. And by doing that, what do? You reduce the amount of white blood cells. We've talked about all this. So this is that downward spiral. Well, you can actually create this kind of kick in this upward spiral, if you will, by having positive thoughts. And this is being brought out by studies like Dr. Fredrickson and Dr. Sapolsky and the doctors that I mentioned earlier, Dr. Blackburn and Eppel, how those are benefits of that of positive thinking. The Mayo Clinic reported that the number of health benefits that were associated with optimism included that cardiovascular problems, less depression, and increased lifespan. So lots of different, things that are connected to being able to just have positive thoughts. And we know this based on our research, based on what science is showing. Happy thoughts and positive thinking, this is another quote, in general support brain growth as well as the generation and reinforcement of new synapses, especially in that PFC, the prefrontal cortex, which serves as the integration center for all of your brain-mind functions. So great information there. It can help. Remember that let me see, I've got to find this report so I can tell you who it was that did this. Who was the doctor? I'm looking desperately for my page that has the doctor on here. I'm going to have to get back with you on the doctor that did this research. But remember how I said that there were several studies that came out showing that you had a decrease in the hippocampus when you were experiencing a lot of these negative emotions, and how it can be 10 to 15% reduction in the nerves in the hippocampus, or the neural connections within the hippocampus. And what is really cool is has the opposite effect. So studies are finding that by having a lot of positive emotions and a positive outlook on life, you're actually able to increase the size of the hippocampus. Now, there are not very many areas in the brain where you can grow new nerve cells as an adult. They felt for many years. Really, it's a fairly recent finding within the last decade or so that they discovered that you can grow new neurons in the brain once you hit adulthood. It used to be believed that once you pass that, 25-year age, your brain was completely wired, and once you pass the 30-year age, your brain was completely myelinated, and therefore what you had at that point in your life was what you had. But they're actually finding that certain types of activity can increase or create new cell growth, new neuron growth in that down in the subconscious portion of the brain and in the hippocampus and the amygdala. So primarily the hippocampus. Don't quote me on the amygdala. I've got to correct that. And that's pretty important, because remember what we said about the hippocampus. The hippocampus is directly related to memory. There's also another portion of the brain, I can't remember the name of it, that you can grow some new neural connections in, or new neurons in there. And it all has to do directly connected to memory. So that's pretty powerful. So if you want to increase your memory, then you know that you can literally grow new neurons there. But if you're experiencing the negative emotions, you're going to counteract that, and you won't be able to grow those new neurons. You'll actually deplete the size or reduce the size. But you can increase the size of that hippocampus through mental activity and through positive thinking. So great great things that are happening that we know that science helps us to see that there are definitely positive effects in our life. So it goes deeper than just the fact that positive individuals are shown to, of course, do more positive things in their life. They have healthier relationships. They exercise more, so physically they're in better health. And they tend to eat better because they're not emotional eating, so their diets are better, so their overall health is better. But it goes very deep into the brain. Science is showing us that having those positive thoughts are actually healthy for our brain, growing with the ability to actually induce new neuronal growth. Okay, so that's your evidence. Hopefully I gave you enough to convince you that this is an important thing to look at in your life. And this is a very important thing to consider. So what I want you to start doing on a regular basis is really paying attention to your emotional state. Now, we're going to go to break here in a couple of minutes. And when we come back, I'm going to give you some very positive steps that you can engage right now, today, that is going to help you to start combating negative thinking and replacing it with very positive thinking. But at the moment, what I want you to do while we go to break is I really want you to kind of analyze what your emotional state is at this moment. And it's being mindfully aware of where you're at and what your thinking is at, because that's really the first step. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in our current emotional state, and that's the emotional state we have every day, that maybe we don't even realize, maybe you don't even realize that you have a negative mindset, or that you are, chronically looking at things in a negative way. You may not even realize that because it's so normal to you. This is just the way you are. It's just your personality, you may think. You don't even realize it because it's a part of your day-to-day life. So I want you to think, as we go on to break, I want you to think, what do people say I am? Do people look at me and tell me I'm a negative person? Or do I feel negativity when I'm around individuals? Do I smile a lot? Do I smile? Oh, fascinating information. I'll share that when I come back from break. But fascinating information about smiling. So do I smile a lot? When I wake up in the morning, do I feel this dredge of getting going in the day? Or do I feel with a very positive outlook and I feel like I can conquer this day? How do you feel? So we're going to go to break now, and I want you to think about that on break, and then join me back in just a couple of minutes at the Brain Lady Speaks radio show.
With her thorough understanding of brain chemistry, Julie Anderson provides you with tools and processes that will change your life in a positive way. Julie uniquely blends science and psychology when she shares her knowledge and information with businesses, entrepreneurs, women's groups, and families to improve workplace morale and productivity, parents creating dynamic relationships with their children, and women achieving more in life and business. Julie Anderson will be right back with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living radio network.
We often ask, is that all there is? Why is this happening to me? Why am I always broke? How am I going to survive this mess? Then join Dr. Geraldine Tegeloff for Nature Spirit Speak, 7 p.m. Tuesday evenings on TogiNet.com. Geraldine is a metaphysician, nature intuitive, and prosperity coach who shares with you how she went from totally broke to living what she would call her perfectly prosperous life. Through the combination of a wealth of metaphysical knowledge and her amazing ability as an intuitive, Geraldine brings to you the secrets of her magical journey of healing emotionally, spiritually, and financially. As with the ancient seers and master teachers, Geraldine has a unique gift of being able to connect to the simple yet profound messages brought to us by Mother Nature, and happily shares these through today's note to self on her webpage, naturespiritspeak.com. If you need help with your journey, why not connect with Geraldine during her show, Nature Spirit Speak, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central on TogiNet.com.
Welcome back to Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living radio network. By including the latest scientific research on the brain-personality connection, Julie Brain Lady Anderson provides her clients with the all-important why behind what people do and how they think. The information she shares will help those who hear to accelerate their success in life and business through the discovery of their natural gifts and maximizing their brain power. Here again is your host, Julie Anderson, with Brain Lady Speaks on the Lessons in Joyful Living Radio Network.
All right. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay. I'm feeling much more positive at this point. What about you? I love this, right? Right. Okay. So let's talk about those action steps, because we only have like 15 more minutes or whatever, a little less than that, to discuss this. But I want to give you things that you can do right now today that you can walk away from this show and do activities that are going to change your life immediately, today and tomorrow and on. So the first thing that you have to do is kind of picking up back where I left off before we ended the last segment, is that you have to identify where you are at. Sometimes negativity becomes so natural to us. It is such a natural part of so many people's lives that they don't even realize they're a negative person. So you really have to start thinking about every conscious thought that you have. Is this a positive one or is it a negative one? When a problem arises in your life, identify, how do I approach this problem? So today, when there's a problem in your life, when you've got 10 things you have to do, or you're running late for an appointment, are you stressed out? Do you allow that to overwhelm you and experience a lot of negative emotions? So identify where you are on this positive negativity scale. We even have a really close, I'm hoping I can get her, I haven't confirmed her, but I'm hoping I can get her on my last call. Kim Box and I worked on she's an amazing lady, and she is the creator of Khmer, which is all about developing positivity. And we did this little positivity test evaluation. I'll see if I can get a link for that up on the page as well, to really help you to analyze in yourself where you're at on this, because sometimes we just don't realize how we're approaching things. And once you've identified where you're at, well, now you can start making positive changes to you'll see, okay, this is the area, this is where I always react negatively, this is where I always need to, this is where, when I get real negative, so I gotta adjust this. Then you just start doing daily activities that will increase positive emotions and send off positive, happy things into your brain. Okay. The first thing is smile. I kind of left off with that. I got all excited about smile because there's this super cool research that's been done on something called the Duchenne smile. So you can look this up. And if you ever want references for anything that I'm talking about here on the radio show, email us. Email my assistant, Kelli, Kelli. She spells it a little differently, Kelli at brainladyspeaker.com. So it's a little different than the radio show. The radio show's Brain Lady Speaks. Our email is brainladyspeaker.com. And ask for the references. Refer to the show and ask for what references you would like to have. And we'll, so long as we don't get too inundated, she'll be able to get those out to you. But the Duchenne smile, it's just amazing. Dr. Duchenne actually found that when you have a genuine smile, okay, a smile when your eyes are smiling, it actually creates endorphins in your brain. It actually changes the brain chemistry. Can you believe that? By smiling, by simply doing a genuine smile. So that's the first thing I want you to do. I want you to focus on every person that you see today, looking at them and genuinely smile. Do the whole pay it forward thing. Make everybody happy and smile, because that's going to affect what goes on in your brain. And we love endorphins, right? We love endorphins. There's been research done, meditation, and you don't have to do the whole, I'm not talking about the transcendental, type meditation where you have to completely leave your brain. That's not what I'm talking about. We're just talking about mindful meditation. Mindful meditation is really when you're just simply monitoring what's going on in your life at this moment. It kind of brings you to this moment. This is really effective in helping you to deal with negative emotions and stress, because oftentimes those negative emotions are connected to things that happened in the past or things that we're worrying about in the future. But by different doctors like Dr. Cresswell, who is a professor of psychology at Carnegie Mellon University, he said that mindful meditation tends to promote very positive benefits in your brain. And individuals who do mindful meditation will tend to react and label things with positive labels as opposed to negative ones. And the mindful individuals show better recruitment of their prefrontal regions of their brain when they're doing this mindful meditation. So that prefrontal cortex. And a greater deactivation of the amygdala. And remember, the amygdala is the fight or flight. So when you're doing mindful meditation, what you're doing is you're telling your automated emotional system, calm down, I got control of this. And you're thinking your way through. And when you start doing this every day and you just take, I tell people 3 to 5 minutes. This does not have to be this long, drawn out process. It can be just taking a few minutes every morning or every evening and going, okay, let me feel the air around me. Let me feel my feet on the ground. Let me really just focus on the now. Because oftentimes at any given particular moment, the stresses aren't nearly as bad as we think they are. It helps you to just work your way through things. So mindful meditation is a really big benefit. And there have been, this Dr. Cresswell, he's not the only one. I mean, there's tons of information, tons of research that has been done on how, meditating is going to reduce stress and keep your brain working and even keep your telomeres happy. So it goes back down to this whole telomere cellular protection thing that you want to protect your DNA. So monitoring your thoughts and doing this meditation is a very positive way to deal with this as well. Let's see, another one, exercise. Okay, when I tell you, I have a program, it's actually coming up. We're starting another session on the beginning of February called Change Your Mind, and it's 21 steps to a more healthy, happy mindset and life. You can email Kelli or I, brainladyspeaker.com for more information on that. It's a great program, and it's 21 of these steps that you can implement in your day-to-day life that is going to help you to adjust your mindset and really become much more positive of a thinker and positive of a doer. Exercise is one of those things. I have to share with you. So this is something funny that I share at a lot of my speaking gigs when I'm talking about positive mindsets. One of my favorite quotes from a movie ever is from the movie Legally Blonde. And the movie Legally Blonde, Elle Woods, who is the character who is defending her client who is accused of killing her husband. Her entire defense is her statement to her colleagues of her entire defense for why this woman could not possibly have killed her husband is she said, exercise gives you endorphins. Endorphins make you happy, and happy people just don't shoot their husbands. They just don't. That's her whole defense. But in all honesty, it's really pretty, it's very true. Exercise is an amazing thing for your mind and your body. Obviously, it gives you those physical benefits. If you showed earlier in some of the other findings that I quoted, that people who are more positive will tend to exercise more, and therefore it, reduces risk of diseases that are increased risk if you don't exercise. But exercise is a great way to create those endorphins in your brain. But it not only creates endorphins in the brain, okay, but exercise can also encourage new neuronal growth, which is connected to the positive outlook. One of the parts that it creates new neuronal growth in is the hippocampus. And then a second area, this is the second area I was trying to think about earlier, the dentate gyrus. And it is also connected to memory. So exercise is also going to create this, this positive thing going on in your brain. New neuronal growth. How many of us wouldn't want new neuronal growth, especially in the memory circuits in our brain, right? I want to remember things. I want to remember all this amazing, neurons or brain stuff that I've been learning for the last 20 years. So exercise. So we've got smiling, we've got meditation, and again, it doesn't have to be the really deep, meditation. It can just simply be 3 to 5 minutes of mindful meditation where you're just kind of focusing on your breathing and your now and feeling the sensations of what's going on around you. It doesn't have to be really big. Exercise is going to be great. So we've talked about those three things. You can consciously actually work at replacing your thought. And this is kind of training your brain to catch yourself when you're negative. It is looking at, every situation that you're faced with, every stressful situation, stop and think, how am I approaching this particular situation? And how can I replace the negative thoughts that I'm experiencing with very positive ones? Very important. Again, it's once you master this skill, it becomes easier and easier and easier. The problem is that negative thinking actually, Walter Chin, I love this quote. He said, the unfortunate superpower of the negative is that it has a stronger impact than the positive. So you have to work harder to be positive than the negative. The negative almost just kind of comes, automatically. And so you have to work harder at it. You got to put more effort into it. So that's something to really think about, is putting forth the effort, consciously replacing those negative thoughts that you have. Oh, goodness, we got to wrap up here. Start your day off with positive thoughts, okay? Get positive thought books. Have it sitting on your desk. Have it sitting in your car, notes in your car. I have positive quotes all over the wall in my office. It's like it's contagious. If everything around you is just exuding positive, then you can't help but have that same feeling in return. Now, next week, we are going to talk a lot about how to develop a positive mindset for success. So we're going to launch off, we're going to springboard off of the first couple of shows and just go even deeper into more of these exercises that you can do on a day-to-day basis to create a very strong, positive mindset. And then how do you then transition that into your thought process connected to success in different areas of your life that you want success with? So that's going to be, so join me next week. Check back in a couple of days on the site, on the Brain Lady Speaks site on the Lessons in Joyful Living Network for your complimentary download. And until then, just surround yourself with every positive that you possibly can. It's worth it. It's worth it. You will not only live healthier, happier lives, your relationships will be enriched. Every part about your life will become better. So thank you for spending this time with me today on the Brain Lady Speaks radio show. Come back and join me next week for some more information. Contact us at brainladyspeaker.com. And until then, have an amazing day. Have an amazing day. Smile a lot. And this is Brain Lady Julie signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of Brain Lady Speaks with Julie Anderson. Julie Brain Lady Anderson is considered to be one of the nation's top experts on the brain-personality connection.